Welcome to our weekly Next Chapter meeting. We have William Yan from Duke University, and he's going to talk to us about how some different nutrition items affect our liver and metabolism other than alcohol, because we talked about that last week. So take it away, William.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Hi, everyone. My name is William. I'm a rising senior at Duke, and today we're going to talk about some other nutritions that affect liver, and mainly just a broader and deeper overview about the liver function and metabolism. So I want to start with like where liver is and its main function. So its function is to process, and one of it is to get process and get energy from the nutrients. And secondly, it filters toxins and drugs. And then the third main function is that it stores and releases energy. And where it locates, it's right under the rib cage and has very close connection with the gut system, especially the small intestine. And then it also is connected to the gallbladder because it produces the bile, which is stored in the gallbladder. Okay, so a very important part or a special part with liver is that it is one of the only place in the body where there's a portal vein system. So what does that mean is if we can look at the diagram on the left, kind of see like how the blood flow normally goes. It kind of goes like it goes towards one organ. In this case, it's the upper body, and then the veins go back right at the heart. Same thing with, for example, the renal system, which means the kidney, right? The blood goes all the way to the kidney, delivers oxygens into the kidney, and then the deoxygenated vein goes right back at the blood. But what happens with stomach and intestine is that the blood goes all the way, supplying oxygen to the stomach and intestine. And then the vein does not directly go back to the blood, but these blood that's filled with nutrients are transported into the liver. And liver are going to do all sorts of metabolism, whether it's filtering drugs or getting energy from food. And then the deoxygenated blood goes back at the heart. So this is really important because this portal vein system basically carries all of the drugs and nutrients that we absorb from the gut to the liver to be processed. And the main thing that the liver does is to extract energy and to detoxify or filter the drugs. So first, I'm going to talk about how liver is going to process these nutrients. So if we enlarge the livers really big, then we see these hexagonal cells. They're called the hepatocytes. And if we zoom into the cell, we can see that this is in the middle, that's the nutrient-rich vein from the gut. It has all sorts of carbs, proteins, and fat inside this blood. And then I would like to think about these hepatocytes or these liver cells as sort of a factories, and the food are coming in as raw ingredients, right? Like if we have a power plant, then what we do with the food is that some of them are going to directly go into making the energy, right? And if there's any excess, we're going to put that into the storage, right? That's also something that the liver does. But then if we don't have enough food to make energy, the liver also release some part of the storage to be used as energy. And of course, if there's a power plant, if you think about like an electricity plant, after burning coal, there's going to be some waste, right? And these waste goes to things that we talked before, such as the urea cycle, where the CTLN2 is a really important enzyme. Um, and one thing that's really interesting that comes into play is that the storage and the release of the storage actually connects with something that we're very familiar with. So how this power plant knows to store energy is when the insulin is present. So the pancreas is going to release insulin when there's a high blood sugar. So this kind of tells the liver that, hey, we have a lot of materials here that we can put them into the warehouse. We can just store them. Whereas the opposite of the insulin is when the pancreas release a hormone called glucagon. So glucagon kind of responds to low blood pressure. This kind of means that, hey, we're running out of fuel, we gotta release some of them. So this prompts the liver to release some of the storage from the warehouse into the blood system. So that's on the nutrient processing side. And another very important part of liver is that they process medications. And with medication, there are mainly three purposes as well. One is the activation. So some of the drugs are designed to, it's not active the whole time. Um, it has to go through our body, go to our liver, gets processed, and then it'll become an activated form. So like it delays the activation, and uh, as the drug company wants it to be active in a very particular time. The second function is that it does detoxification. So, for example, with the very common drug Tylenol, it can be toxic if overdosed, but liver will add some functional groups to it and to make it less toxic. And last but not least is they make some fat soluble drugs water soluble. So some drugs are designed to be fat soluble because there are certain areas that only fat soluble drugs can go to, and they want to specifically target those areas. But then with the problem with fat soluble drugs is that our urine is water based. So one of the only ways to get things out of our system is actually to make them soluble in water. Therefore, we can excrete them out using urines. So what liver also does is it adds some functional groups, mainly like alcohol groups, um, to the fat soluble drugs, and then we're able to excrete them and dissolve them into our urine very easily. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some food that interact with drug other than alcohols. So there are two things that the food can do. One is inhibit it, the other thing is to enhance the liver enzymes. So this slide is mainly about inhibition. So when an enzyme tries to metabolize these food actually irreversibly modifies these enzymes and inactivate them. So when the enzymes are inactivated, that means that the liver cannot process them as fast, which means that the drugs they are in our system for longer, and that can potentially lead to longer and higher side effects. So some examples are grapefruit, pomegranate, and acute alcohol intake. So maybe 1 hour to 2 hours after drinking alcohol. And these food and drinks mainly bind to a protein called CYP3A4, which is a part of the CYP450 family that we talked about last week, and they process around 50% of the clinically used drugs. Okay, next is some food can also enhance the liver enzymes. So these food activate the production of more enzymes. And with more enzyme, that means you kind of digest the drugs faster. So it leads to shorter stay of the drugs. And this can also lead to, effects such as, well, we won't get any more side effect, but this may lead to the drug not having enough time to even do its normal effect. So the drugs might not be as effective if they have a shorter stay in our body. Some food that does that are some cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli, cabbage, uh, charbroiled meat, and this is a very interesting thing about alcohol. When you have a chronic intake of alcohol, it actually tells the body to make more of these enzymes and kind of elevates the liver metabolism. So it will actually make some of the drug ineffective that way. And these will increase as enzymes such as CYP1A2 and CYP3A4. Okay, next, I'm going to talk about some factors that affect liver health. So alcohol, obviously a big one. Both acute alcohol and chronic alcohol leads to compromises with liver function in both ways. And certain medications will also negatively affect liver health. So when checking with doctors, uh, things, for example, like Tylenol and some antibiotics mixed with alcohol can become toxic. So it would be a good idea to always check with doctors and check the label of the medication. Another thing with liver is that fatty liver from weight will also have a negative impact because fat deposits will accumulate and lead to inflammation. And last but not least is genetics. For example, like the mutation on the CYP450 that we talked about last time. Some of these mutations is what we call a loss of function mutations, which means that the enzymes kind of change its shape, are not shaped correctly, and they're not functioning correctly, leading to a longer stay of the drug in our system. And what are some warning signs we can look for liver compromises with liver function because it's really important to have a early diagnosis and um, get early attentions to things such as liver dysfunction because liver is still a pretty robust, strong organ that it's not very easily to fail. Um, so with any sort of decently early diagnosis about liver dysfunction, it will always have a very good chance of recovering from that. One Firstly, it's the fatigue. So when liver is overloaded, right, with whether food processing, things like that, then toxins can really build up because one of the key function of liver is to filter out the toxins. Um, Another thing is called jaundice, which is yellow skin, as we can show on the right. It's failed processing of bilirubin, which is a part of the blood, which is why this side product is making everything, including the eyes and the skins, yellow. And another thing you can see from liver, obviously that doesn't exclude any other disease, but it can be a sign of liver dysfunction is easy bruising and bleeding. So liver also makes these blood clotting proteins, and the lack of these blood clots can also mean that compromised liver function. Yeah, and last but not least, I'm going to talk about some things to keep the liver healthy. One is with a easy balanced meal. So this will reduce the likelihood of fatty liver, and that reduces the inflammation for that. Secondly, is limiting the alcohol. I think both last time and this time we talk about many side effects of the alcohol on liver function. And then thirdly is be careful and check with doctors for new supplements and medications because uh, more likely or not, these supplements are processed by the livers, and there are just so many combinations of supplement and different drugs. It's always a good idea to see if there's any cross-link between different drugs. Uh, then maintain a healthy weight that also goes hand in hand with preventing a fatty liver, and also staying active is also always good for our health. So with that, that concludes my presentation today, and thank you for listening.
And thank you, William. And I always like to see the suggestions at the end that we can all do something, eat balanced meals, get exercise, and just we really appreciate your research on this. Thank you.